For 125 years, Indian Motorcycle has been the definition of American resilience on two wheels. America's first motorcycle company, the brand that once dominated every racetrack and outsold every competitor. The name that survived bankruptcy, dozens of owners, and more near-death experiences than any brand has the right to. And as of February 2nd, 2026, Indian Motorcycle just changed hands again. Polaris, the powersports giant that rescued Indian back in 2011, has sold a majority stake to a Los Angeles private equity firm called Carolwood LP. The deal closed just weeks ago, making Indian an independent standalone company for the first time since the Reagan administration. For current Indian owners, prospective buyers, and anyone who cares about the American motorcycle industry, this raises one obvious question. Is this the beginning of Indian's next great chapter, or the start of another painful transition in a history absolutely filled with them? The answer depends on who you ask and where you look. But there is one detail that has the motorcycle community cautiously optimistic. The man Carolwood hired to run Indian Motorcycle is a 26-year Harley-Davidson veteran who knows the heavyweight cruiser business better than almost anyone alive. Let me tell you why that matters, and why the next few years could determine whether Indian Motorcycle finally breaks its curse. The announcement came on October 14th, 2025, from Polaris headquarters in Medina, Minnesota. After 14 years of ownership, the company that builds off-road vehicles, snowmobiles, and recreational boats was stepping back from the motorcycle business, not completely out. Polaris retained a minority stake, ensuring they still have skin in the game. But the majority ownership and operational control, that was going to Carolwood LP. Wall Street loved it. Polaris stock jumped 9% in a single day, their best performance in months. Investors saw it as Polaris finally cutting loose an underperforming asset and refocusing on their core strengths. But for riders in the Indian community, the reaction was more complicated. Here's the thing about private equity that makes motorcycle enthusiasts nervous. The private equity playbook is famous for acquiring brands, slashing costs, extracting value, and flipping them for profit. Sometimes that works out great for everyone. Sometimes the brand gets stripped for parts and left for dead. Indian riders have been through this before, multiple times. The brand's history reads like a soap opera of failed owners, broken promises, and shattered dreams. So when the news dropped that yet another financial firm was taking over, the forums lit up with concern. Who is Carolwood LP? Do they actually care about motorcycles? Or is this just another flip waiting to happen? Carolwood LP was founded in 2014 by Josh Schanfeld and Seth Rubin, two partners operating out of Los Angeles. Their track record includes over $3.2 billion in closed transactions across real estate and private equity investments. But here's what caught everyone's attention. Carolwood has no previous experience in the motorcycle industry. Zero. This is not a company with decades of power sports expertise. This is not a passionate group of riders who grew up dreaming of owning Indian. By their own admission, they are financial operators looking for well-positioned brands to acquire and grow. That said, there are a few things working in their favor. First, Carolwood claims they have never sold an acquired brand. Their investment philosophy, at least according to their public statements, focuses on long-term value creation rather than quick flips. They describe themselves as building businesses to last generations, not years. Second, and this is the big one, they were smart enough to hire someone who actually knows motorcycles. Mike Kennedy is not a finance guy who happened to stumble into the motorcycle business. He is a career motorcycle executive with 26 years at Harley-Davidson, the company that wrote the book on building heavyweight cruisers. At Harley, Kennedy rose through the ranks to become vice president of the Americas, running a business unit responsible for over $3.5 billion in annual revenue. That is not a middle management position. That is running the most important market for the most important American motorcycle brand. After leaving Harley, Kennedy became president and chief executive officer of Vance & Hines, the legendary exhaust and performance company that has dominated motorcycle racing for decades. Under his leadership, Vance & Hines continued their racing dominance while expanding their aftermarket parts business. He also served as chief executive officer of Rumble On, a digital vehicle marketplace, giving him experience with modern retail and e-commerce strategies that the motorcycle industry has been slow to adopt. Then in May 2025, 5 months before the Indian deal was announced, Kennedy joined Carolwood as an operating partner. That timing was not a coincidence. Kennedy was brought in specifically to identify and operate a motorcycle acquisition. Indian was his target from the beginning. For riders worried about Carolwood's lack of industry experience, Kennedy's involvement changes the equation entirely. This is not some private equity firm making decisions from spreadsheets. They have a genuine motorcycle executive with a proven track record calling the shots. The question is whether Kennedy can do for Indian what he could not do at Harley, which is figure out how to grow a heavyweight motorcycle brand in a market that has been shrinking for years. Indian Motorcycle was founded in 1901 in Springfield, Massachusetts, making it America's first motorcycle company. Not one of the first. The first. George Hendy and Oscar Hedstrom started building motorized bicycles in a small factory on State Street. Within a decade, their little company had transformed the entire concept of personal transportation in America. In those early years, Indian absolutely dominated. By 1913, they were the largest motorcycle manufacturer in the world, selling more bikes than Harley-Davidson and every other competitor combined. Their machines won races, set records, and defined what American motorcycling could be. The board track era of the 1910s and the 1920s belonged to Indian. Riders on Indian motorcycles reached speeds that seemed impossible at the time, racing on banked wooden tracks in front of crowds that numbered in the tens of thousands. The Indian Power Plus engine became legendary for its reliability and performance. The brand built its reputation on innovation and performance. Indian Scout, Indian Chief, Indian 4, names that still carry weight more than a century later. The Scout in particular became the choice of police departments and racing teams across America. The Chief defined what a luxury touring motorcycle could be. But World War II changed everything. Indian bet heavily on military contracts during the war, retooling their entire production for wartime manufacturing. When the war ended, they struggled to transition back to civilian production, while Harley-Davidson captured the post-war market. By 1953, Indian Motorcycle declared bankruptcy. The original company was gone. What followed was decades of chaos. The Indian name passed through 19 different owners over the next 70 years. Some tried to legitimately revive the brand. Some were outright scammers who sold fake motorcycles that never actually got built. Some were well-intentioned but underfunded dreamers who could not compete with the established players. Through it all, the Indian name survived, battered, diminished, but never quite dead. Then in 2011, Polaris Industries made a move that surprised the industry. They acquired the Indian motorcycle brand for roughly $2.4 million. That number sounds impossibly low today, but at the time, Indian was essentially just a trademark and some historical designs. There was no manufacturing, no dealer network, no modern product line. Polaris was buying a name and a legacy, nothing more. What they built from that purchase shocked everyone. Polaris did not just slap the Indian name on existing products. They invested hundreds of millions of dollars in developing an entirely new motorcycle platform from the ground up. The team started from scratch. New engines, new chassis, new suspension, new electronics. Everything designed specifically for the heavyweight cruiser market that Harley-Davidson had owned for decades. The breakthrough came in 2013 with the Thunderstroke 111 engine, a massive 111 cubic inch V-twin designed specifically for heavyweight cruisers. The engine gave Indian a legitimate power plant that could compete head-to-head with Harley-Davidson's Milwaukee 8. Critics initially dismissed it as another failed revival attempt. The motorcycle industry had seen plenty of those. But when riders actually sat on the new Indian Chief and twisted the throttle, something clicked. This was not a gimmick. This was a serious motorcycle from a serious company. From there, Indian rapidly expanded their lineup. The Indian Chief appeared in multiple variants. The Indian Chieftain became a full bagger. The Indian Roadmaster targeted serious touring. The Indian Scout brought back one of the most legendary names in motorcycle history with a nimble mid-weight platform. They built a proper dealer network from scratch, opening Indian-only dealerships while also partnering with existing Polaris powersports dealers. They established manufacturing facilities in Spirit Lake, Iowa, and Roseau, Minnesota, creating real American jobs, building real American motorcycles. The brand started winning back riders who had written off Indian decades ago. Harley-Davidson customers looking for an alternative finally had one. Riders who had never considered American cruisers started showing up at Indian dealerships. By 2023, Indian Motorcycle turned profitable for the first time under Polaris ownership. After years of investment and growth, the brand was finally making money. But there was a problem. Even at peak performance, Indian represented only 7% of Polaris total revenue, a small slice, bringing in around $478 million against Polaris' $6 billion overall business. That sounds like a lot of money, but for a company with massive off-road vehicle and snowmobile divisions, motorcycles were becoming an afterthought. Polaris had also taken impairment charges of $330.4 million related to the motorcycle business. The investments required to keep Indian competitive were weighing on the balance sheet without delivering proportional returns. Meanwhile, the broader heavyweight motorcycle market was declining. Fewer young people were buying big cruisers. The core demographic was aging. Harley-Davidson was struggling with the same problems on a larger scale. So Polaris made a calculated decision, refocus on the core business, and let someone else figure out the heavyweight motorcycle market. That someone is now Carolwood and Mike Kennedy. When Kennedy took over, he wasted no time laying out his strategic vision for Indian's future. The plan centers on focus. Indian will concentrate exclusively on heavyweight cruisers, baggers, touring bikes, and trikes. It will double down on the core American V-twin experience that Indian and Harley-Davidson have competed over for generations. What they will not be doing is chasing trends. No small displacement motorcycles to compete with the 300 and 400 cubic centimeter bikes flooding the market from Japan. No full-size electric motorcycles to go head-to-head with Harley-Davidson's struggling Livewire division. No radical departures from what Indian riders expect. Kennedy has explicitly stated that Indian will stay in their lane. Big American V-twins, built for the open road. That is the product, that is the brand, that is the future. The manufacturing strategy reflects this focus. Indian is closing its plant in Poland and consolidating all production at its facilities in Spirit Lake, Iowa, and Roseau, Minnesota. Every Indian motorcycle will be built in America by American workers. This is not just operational efficiency, it is a core marketing advantage. In a market dominated by Japanese manufacturers and increasingly challenged by European imports, being built in America matters to the riders who buy heavyweight cruisers. The tragic side of this consolidation is job losses. Indian's plant in Osceola, Wisconsin is closing, with approximately 200 workers losing their positions. That is a real cost paid by real people, and it should not be glossed over even as we discuss the strategic logic. Kennedy has also emphasized dealer and parts continuity. Every Indian dealer remains an Indian dealer. Every warranty remains in effect. Every part remains available. For current owners, the transition should be seamless. That promise matters because Indian riders have been burned before. Previous ownership changes have left owners stranded with bikes they could not service and parts they could not find. Carolwood seems to understand that building trust with existing customers is step one. But here is where things get complicated. Even with the right leadership and the right strategy, Indian faces market headwinds that no management team can simply ignore. The Motorcycle Industry Council reports that U.S. motorcycle sales declined 8% in 2025. That follows years of softening demand for heavyweight motorcycles in particular. The decline is not uniform across all segments. Small displacement bikes and adventure motorcycles have held up reasonably well, but the big American cruisers that represent Indian's core business are the segment taking the biggest hit. The median age of motorcycle owners in America is now 50 years old. Half of all motorcycle owners are over 50. That number has been climbing for years, and it represents a demographic time bomb for the industry. The riders who grew up dreaming of Harley-Davidsons and Indian Chiefs in the 1970s and the 1980s are aging out of the market. Their knees hurt, their backs complain. Some are downsizing to lighter bikes, others are parking their motorcycles entirely, and younger generations have not replaced them at the same rate. Part of this is cultural. Motorcycles are not as central to youth rebellion and freedom as they were in previous generations. Part of it is economic. Young people carrying student debt and facing housing costs have less disposable income for luxury recreational vehicles. Part of it is practical. Ride-sharing and delivery apps provide income opportunities that compete with discretionary motorcycle purchases. This is not an Indian-specific problem. Harley-Davidson, the dominant American motorcycle brand, has been struggling with the same challenges on a much larger scale. Harley's revenue dropped 14.9% in their most recent reported period. Their stock has been battered. Leadership has turned over repeatedly as the company searches for a strategy that can reverse the decline. If the biggest American motorcycle brand cannot figure out how to attract younger riders and grow the market, what chance does Indian have? The answer might actually be in the question. Indian's smaller size could be an advantage. They do not need to sell 200,000 motorcycles a year to be successful. They need to carve out a profitable niche in the heavyweight market and defend it. Kennedy's strategy of focus over expansion reflects this reality. Indian is not trying to be everything to everyone. They are trying to be the best option for a specific type of rider who wants an American-built heavyweight cruiser. That market is shrinking, but it is not disappearing. If Indian can capture a larger share of a smaller pie, the math might still work. The reaction from the Indian motorcycle community has been mixed, leaning toward cautious optimism. On rider forums and social media, the Mike Kennedy hire is generating the most positive buzz. Owners recognize his credentials and experience. Having a genuine motorcycle person running the company provides reassurance that Carolwood is not just playing financial games. The warranty and parts continuity promises have also landed well. Riders who have been through ownership transitions before know how devastating it can be when a new owner fails to support existing customers. Carolwood's clear commitment to honoring existing obligations suggests they understand the importance of trust. But anxiety remains about the private equity model. Riders have watched other industries get gutted by private equity firms focused on short-term extraction. The phrase "building businesses to last generations" sounds good in press releases, but it remains to be proven over time. The job losses in Wisconsin have also generated criticism. Even riders who support the overall strategy acknowledge that consolidating manufacturing comes at a human cost. And lurking beneath everything is the weight of history. Indian Motorcycle has changed hands so many times that longtime enthusiasts have learned to temper their expectations. Hope is a dangerous thing when your brand has broken your heart before. So where does this leave Indian Motorcycle in February 2026? The brand is now independent for the first time in generations. They have experienced leadership with deep industry knowledge. They have a focused strategy that plays to their strengths. They have manufacturing consolidated in America, which resonates with their target market. The challenges are real. The heavyweight motorcycle market is declining, and competition from Harley-Davidson remains fierce despite Harley-Davidson's own struggles. Younger riders are not entering the category at rates that would suggest easy growth ahead. But there are reasons for optimism that go beyond corporate promises. Indian's FTR 750 flat track racing program has dominated American flat track competition, winning championship after championship. The motorcycle has become so dominant that watching American flat track racing is essentially watching Indian victory laps. Jared Meese, Breyer Bauman, and other elite riders have stacked titles on the FTR 750 platform. Racing success matters because it builds brand credibility with enthusiasts in ways that marketing campaigns cannot replicate. When you see Indian winning on the track, it validates the engineering and performance claims that the company makes about their street bikes. The product line is genuinely strong. The Indian Challenger brought modern performance to the bagger category with its Power Plus engine producing 122 horsepower. The Indian Pursuit pushed touring luxury to new heights. The Indian Super Chief delivered a stripped-down bobber style that younger riders respond to. The Scout continues to be the entry point for riders graduating into the heavyweight cruiser world. Kennedy is not inheriting a company with outdated products that need replacing. He is inheriting a company with competitive motorcycles that need better marketing and distribution. The bikes sell themselves when people ride them. The challenge is getting more people to take that first test ride. and the built-in America positioning could become increasingly powerful as trade tensions and supply chain concerns make domestic manufacturing more attractive to consumers. Indian Motorcycle has survived bankruptcy, scammers, failed revivals, and nearly a century of turbulence. The brand exists today because riders refused to let it die, and because Polaris had the resources and vision to bring it back properly. Now that legacy passes to Carolwood LP and Mike Kennedy, history suggests caution. Indian has been here before, standing at the edge of a new era with promises of brighter days ahead. Sometimes those promises were kept. More often, they were not. But there are differences this time that matter. The product line is real and competitive. The manufacturing base is established. The dealer network exists. Kennedy knows the business intimately. Carolwood appears committed to long-term ownership rather than a quick flip. None of that guarantees success, but it creates the conditions where success becomes possible. For current Indian owners, the immediate future looks stable. Your warranty is valid, your parts are available, your dealer is open, the bikes you love will continue to be supported. For prospective buyers, Indian remains a legitimate choice in the heavyweight cruiser market. The ownership change does not diminish the quality of the motorcycles themselves. And for the American motorcycle industry as a whole, Indian's continued existence matters. Competition makes everyone better. Harley-Davidson needs Indian pushing them, just as Indian needs Harley setting the benchmark. The road ahead is uncertain. It always has been for Indian Motorcycle. But for 125 years, this brand has found ways to survive, to adapt, to ride again. There is no reason to believe this chapter will be any different. If you want to stay updated on the Indian Motorcycle story as it develops, subscribe to this channel. I will be covering every major development in the months and years ahead. If you want to understand the broader motorcycle industry challenges that Kennedy and Indian are facing, check out the video linked now about why heavyweight motorcycle sales have been declining and what it means for American brands. The future of Indian Motorcycle is being written right now. Let us see where the road leads.